You're listening to Traumedy, the podcast that helps you take your pain and play with it. I am Nancy Norton. I am your host. I am a registered nurse. I'm a CHP, a certified humor professional, here to help take that stuck energy and move it out of your body environment and into the higher frequency and have fun. We are back after my big move. I moved my whole household back into Boulder and took a fall break. I meant to come back sooner, but thanks for your patience and welcome back. So glad to be back. And I'm recording inside my house now instead of in a cold garage, which feels really good this fall because it's a little bit chilly out there. I hope you're staying warm. I hope you have a cozy place to get comfy and maybe sit by a fire. I love a fire. And if you don't have a fire, I love watching those YouTube fireplaces. You ever watch a YouTube fireplace? There are some YouTube fireplaces that are, just real-time fires. We used to watch one and we knew like at 14 minutes and 30 seconds, he's going to throw another log on the fire. It was cool. The crackle. And I heard there's something about the crackle of a fire that is at a certain hertz that stimulates the delta waves. So you could listen to it at bedtime and get a sip of tea, listen to some Traumedy, and then put on a fire if you need to do a parasympathetic nervous system reset. This episode deals with religious abuse, child abuse, and more importantly, healing. So we're not going to stay stuck there. We're going to acknowledge some things, and that's what we do on Traumedy. If you've ever been through religious abuse, then I've actually had this subject requested before, so this one's for you. Anybody that's been through it would like to hear about it. That's how it is. It's also hilarious. Another comedian who's super funny, and I really think we have a nice chemistry. I want to do more shows with her. I'm going to invite her onto some Nurses Off the Charts shows, see if she'll be my riffing buddy when we go into the audience and hear your stories. By the way, there's a Nurses Off the Charts show coming up in Louisville, Colorado, November 21st. That's a Thursday, 8 p.m. at the Louisville Underground, which is a very cool venue. I really like it. So it's just, I got a nice vibe in there. Let's get on with this episode. It's a two-parter, just to let you know. The first part, we're going to deal with some of the trauma and some of the comedy, a lot of the Traumedy. And then the second part, which will be next week, we'll talk more about how do you go from religious abuse to enjoying a rich, spiritually resourced life, to having higher power, the loving universe in your life. A lot of my friends who are in recovery with me, and I work a program that's a spiritual recovery program, it's really hard when they've had religious abuse to have this higher power. Some people call God. Some people call the loving universe. How do you do that? And there's some super cool stories that will be shared in the second half. So make sure you listen to part 1 and part 2. And everybody, love yourselves out there, and we'll see you on the other side.
Americans doing British accents are looked down upon now, or super hacky. It's you know what? You know what, Brits, if you knew how much we were just self-soothing. It's a little bit. It's how we do it. Of self-soothe.
Soothe. Oh. I like when you're doing that.
Self-soothe. Are we recording right now?
We're already recording.
Sometimes. I'm slipping right into Michael Caine. Sometimes, Batman, you have to use your whole mouth to do an accent. Outrageous.
Welcome to Traumedy. My guest this week is a comedian, a mom, a producer, who I met when she produced a show where I was hired for a corporate gig. Thank you so much for helping me feed my family on that gig.
We're so welcome.
Meeting some lovely, I believe, realtors, as I recall.
Yes, they were realtors.
It's all coming back to me. And we just had some lovely time together.
You really did.
Bonding with Moms Unhinged, where we're both doing shows and touring around the country. It is the one, the only, Jene Suplee.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love your podcast. I absolutely love you. You've always been such an inspiration to me, and I'm so glad we've gotten to know each other more.
Thank you, Jene.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I'm glad you've gotten to see my awkward underbelly here in the new. There's my first guest in my new studio.
Look at the new studio.
Uplighting. We have uplighting.
We have uplighting and curtains. They're soft, y'all. They're super
velvety,
soft. Velvety
curtains.
Deliciousness.
So I moved, and I want to apologize because I actually did get some contact from people who are going through traumedy withdrawals, which made me feel like, oh,
that's so good.
All right, I'm going to say one person, but still. No,
one person can be a people.
If one person calls, that means several others were thinking it. Is my mind. But if you've missed this, and I apologize because I do like to keep my word, and I said I was just going to take a couple of weeks off and come back in September, and here's middle of October. It's October 16th today. We're looking at some aspens out my window here in Boulder, Colorado. Yep. So I moved from Boulder Valley out in the peripherals to in the city, and I have a little studio space here. Yeah. So it's a little more comfortable, I think, than my workbench. Not sure. We're figuring it out.
It's very comfy, but I love it.
I'm so glad you're my first guest, and you're so patient with me setting everything up.
Oh, I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And so today, as you know, Traumedy, you've listened to a few episodes.
Yeah, I'm you. Yeah, I think what you know of me so far. I'm a little bit of a research geek, so I was like, let me prepare. So I dove in. Well, I had listened to it before, but I was like, oh, this will be a nice prep, and it's just such a great concept. This is what people need. So.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
To not get stuck, and not be alone with it. The goals of Traumedy help people that are maybe isolated with trauma, think I'm the only one that's been through this kind of thing. Also, people that might feel like, this is too much for me to look at. Mm-hmm. And if you have the resource of humor, man, you can look at almost anything. If you know you're going to make a joke about it and take that toxic energy and throw it. I always picture it like confetti.
Yeah.
Like, the ha-ha-has, like, okay, it gets it out of your body environment. So you don't just feel like collapsing.
Yeah. See, and then what my image, like where my head goes to with that imagery is like, let's throw up a trauma confetti. And then my people pleaser dips in and I'm like, but what if it sprinkles on others? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a really interesting. So that kind of goes back to the whole, are we trauma dumping?
Yeah, sure.
And I would say yes. And but I feel we're trauma processing. But not just gratuitous, like, hey, we're going to dump some crap on you. We're going to share some things.
Yeah.
But we're also going to share how we're not going to leave you with that dump. We're going to clean it up. We're going to vacuum up the confetti. We're going to sweep it up.
Yeah.
And there might be a few flecks.
And I
left.
think comedians especially, and maybe like just artists and creators in general kind of do that in their process of, some of the best jokes or, the best bits. And sometimes I'm like, this joke is for me on stage. But it's, it's like we kind of already cleaned that up and presented and like, hey, let's all laugh at this.
Yeah.
And some of the jokes I've done, specifically about my background and my childhood, I have had folks come up to me afterward and say,
oh, totally.
That's crazy. And I know this happens to you all the time. Like I admire you on stage. Like,
well, I'm just saying it's wonderful though when you get that feedback where like you helped somebody. Because I don't know. I feel like part of my life purpose is to be a helper healer. Mm-hmm. And do you have a core belief or a core sense of like your life purpose kind of feeling or sense of it?
Good question.
I know it's not on the list.
No.
There is no list.
I feel like there is no list. This is completely extemporaneous. Just kidding. I have notes. I think I do a good job of actually identifying that in other people. Like I said, my best friend, he lives in San Diego, and I, recently saw him in a psilocybin journey. I recently saw him in a psilocybin journey in a past life as a healer. And I came out of that, and he was the first person I called after, after I journaled for 12 pages straight after the journey. But I was like, I saw you here and this is what you were doing. And, and then he actually started to kind of dive into those parts. And then actually, without even giving multiple, different healers that information, they were like, well, you are a healer and here's all the reasons why. And he was like, my friend just saw me doing this. So I can label that for other people, but for me, I think, I don't know. I think helper is, I feel called to like support people.
Yeah.
And, I think that maybe that's why
I definitely feel that.
Why I
you're
like
here
producing and hosting. Yeah.
And then you're going to help me with my ADHD organizational challenges. You're going to help me kind of figure out how to create a system that if I have a system and if I have a checklist, I can do it. It's my executive function is just, it goes off in 1,200 directions at once.
And one thing too is some of the closest people in my life do suffer from or have, or however you want to frame that. I don't want to make it reductive in any way to say you're suffering from, because sometimes it's a superpower, but
exactly. There's the two sides to the coin.
Exactly. Right. But some of the closest people in my life do have ADHD. So I think I'm kind of well equipped to, I don't know, like help people navigate that. And I was even looking up like different organizations and goal structuring for individuals with ADHD. So so that's what I'm excited to talk with you about after the podcast.
Okay. Cool. Well, I would say I definitely see that in you. And then I could see, we were talking earlier about the Myers-Briggs, there's all these different kinds of personality inventories, but I could see how you can draw from every quadrant and be one of those people that you are so versatile and adaptable and what is needed, maybe that's a gift. Yeah. So, and
like we talked about, definitely, I think a trauma response from, growing up in a bit of chaos, but also it's, I think for me, like the healing process has been, it's important to acknowledge what's not serving you anymore and let it go. And there are so many ways to reframe, kind of dipping into different quadrants, and the skills that I have to meet the situation or person or expectations that serve me, that it doesn't feel traumatic. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is something, a skill that I have that it doesn't, I've done a lot of therapy, a lot of healing around that, of course. But I don't feel like that is something that I have to heal from. You know what I mean?
I see. More like accept it and use it. Accept it.
Accept it and use it.
And then one of the concepts I've been talking about on here off and on is post-traumatic growth and post-traumatic gifts. And so finding, again, always like the two sides of the coin, or that it doesn't have to be labeled anything. Is that what you mean? I'm not sure if I understand.
No, I think the way, that's such a great way to reframe it. I think how you said it's a gift, where there are some, certain things where I say I'm a recovering perfectionist or recovering people pleaser, because those are, idiosyncrasies that don't serve me anymore, but I had to use to survive, through childhood. Yeah, it's like a survival mechanism. And I think to your point, me dipping into different quadrants, whether it's like my type A, type B, organization, my creative mind, I can dip into all of them. But I do think that started off early because I had to.
Yeah.
But
now you can choose to.
Now I can choose. Yes.
Oh, so got it.
That's what I mean. I think you reframed it like it was a gift,
Yeah, I know. And it is hard to, when you're in it, and I already can feel like pushback from maybe a listener going, that wasn't a gift that my mother or my father abused me like that.
Of course not.
But
sure.
But the gift did come. There maybe, I don't know. Not everybody that goes through abuse gets a gift.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe they do. I shouldn't say not everybody. Maybe they don't always recognize it. Maybe they don't always use it. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I would I always am wanting to say on here, like, I would not wish it on anyone, but I would not trade it. Would you go back and trade it, or what if you could?
It's funny. I have almost a now 2-year-old, and she's wonderful and my whole world. But it's really interesting because, my husband also, has, a complicated, relationship with his father and, and things like that. And we were like, oh my gosh, like, she's going to have probably a secure attachment. Like, what is that even going to look like? Like, is she going to have any charisma? Is she, and we say that jokingly because, but it really is, I don't know.
Will she have any drive?
Will she have any drive?
Is there anything to push against?
Yeah, I have friends that have a similar upbringing, to mine, and they're like, are you just worried our kids are going to be boring? Because, and I'm, to your point, in no way condoning, in no way, but I think we're not condoning abuse.
Let's make this kid interesting.
Yeah. Not condoning abuse, but I also think, like, you can't, you can, and it's really difficult, but to sit in that victimization standpoint and to sit in something, and again, this is many, many, many years of therapy and intention around healing, is I'm like, I can now kind of pick apart my behaviors or pick apart how I feel about something and say, okay, is this serving me anymore? Because that's a part of me. Yeah. And I can say, okay, I can let that go. How can I work on letting that go? And I want to let that go. And then, but again, just my ability, I mean, and I really appreciate it because I think it is a compliment, but the ability to pivot from hosting, working on some really hard production stuff, with the venue or, whatever beforehand, running timing, running the music, running the lighting, just making sure that everything, and then I can jump on stage and click into my other brain and be like, now I can release. And I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that just came to me while you were talking about letting things go, and that's one of the things I get hung up on, is just like how to let things go.
Yeah.
But what I've learned, and I mentioned on here before, I'm in a recovery program for adult children of dysfunctional families, and unexpressed grief is one of the common phrases that causes dysfunction in ourselves, or stunted development, perhaps, like why I'm still a child. Like, that should not have happened, or I get stuck in that just that spot where it's like, that should not, and then I'm not saying it should have, but it's like that did happen, and getting to the place where it did, and acceptance of it, which to do that, to grieve it, to grieve the lost childhood, to grieve the sense of safety, to grieve whatever it is. And I know we're going into the trauma. We were going to probably start with some comedy, but it's nice. I think it's good to know, like, hey, I like to know there's depth here, and then we're going to play a clip that, may be silly and light, and then audience may or may not know that you're actually expressing trauma.
Oh, yeah.
And what we do is we show people, here's how we take our pain and play with it. So,
which is one of the most magical and wonderful ways to heal that I've ever experienced. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I would say most comedians are raising the frequency on earth. I think laughter and humor is pretty high frequency. I mean, there's dark humor that can kind of sometimes go, but, I mean, even some of that really dark humor kids today, like my son is Gen Z, the humor is so dark, like, wow, but it must be releasing something, do you want, how do you feel about playing a clip? Do you feel
I'll play a clip. I can pull her right up here.
See if you're paired with my Bluetooth on the old Rodecaster 2000.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah, let's see. Let's.
Okay.
We're all getting. I went to an Alanis Morissette concert. Yeah. Show up love for Alanis. I love 90s music, and it made me think, if Alanis were to rewrite the lyrics for Ironic, do you think they'd be a little bit less trivial? You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like, no smoking sign on your cigarette break. Nobody smokes anymore, Alanis. Vape secretly like the rest of us. You were like, you bitch. Okay? I think she could hit us, though, with some really poppin' 2021 ironic lyrics. She goes to her producer. She's like, all right, check it out. A misogynist dies on Women's Day. We're like, that is 2021 written all over it. We love it. She's like, all right, next lyric, check it It's a black fly in your Chardonnay. We're so fucking bored, we drank it anyway. A little bit of protein, don't you think? And I think my favorite 2021 ironic lyric is gonna have to be, it's like meeting the man of your dreams and fucking him and his beautiful wife. That's polyamory.
Yeah.
Isn't it great? That's it for me, guys.
That's it for me, guys.
Well, it used to be my old closer, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, and I like you told me it was from not 1921, Nance. That would be.
It was from 1987. It was pretty good. I was only a year old.
I was like 1921, 2021. 2021.
Yeah.
So you had just started.
I had just started.
I love that you're showing one of your you're playing one of your very first.
Yeah, one of my first bits.
That's amazing. So it's a misogynist. What was it?
I'll sing it for you if you'd like.
Oh, would you please?
A misogynist dies on Women's Day. A misogynist dies on Women's Day. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the traumedy came in.
Okay. So you were expressing. Okay, now I want to get to that. Then the next thing, honestly, I was like, oh shoot, what was it?
Yeah, it's a black fly in your Chardonnay. We're so effing bored. We drank it anyway. And it was during COVID. You know, so it was, that one always was like nice and punchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the UN, I don't know if you know, I think it was around, I don't know what year it was, but I feel like it was close to that timeline that the UN came out with the most sustainable source of protein is bugs.
Look at that. That was the tag, a little bit of protein.
I have a friend who has a cricket farm down in... No, I'm serious. He freezes.
Of course you do.
He freezes. Yeah. He got a grant and he has this cricket farm and he freezes. And I'm an animal rights activist. So in a way, I'm like, wait, now I'm torn, because it's like I'd rather kill one animal than thousands. But it's like he freezes. I think he slow freezes them and they go into a dormancy. He says it's somehow humane. And then
they don't die.
And then they die. Oh. They eventually die, but they go into like free, like I guess what they do normally in the winter or something. And we will get back to your trauma, do not worry. And then they go to the death and then they become cricket flour.
Wow.
Source of protein, all that from the fly. But I just want you to know you're educating.
Good to know.
The protein.
I'm educating you. No, first of all, I fully believe that you know someone with a cricket farm because I was just in your fridge.
And
I think I saw a single carrot in a large glass of water. And I was like, I wonder what Nance is doing. I wonder what Nance is doing with that. You're like saving the world, one carrot in a large glass of water at a time.
I thought you were doing it. Well, I was going to say, I don't think because on the Mom Show, we keep it kind of PG, so I don't think I've done any of the anal carrot jokes, but I thought, did you think carrots are for anal? Everybody knows it. But I was like...
Got to keep it soft.
But when it's in water, actually, I was firming it up. What's funny is I came out of the package and it was one of those like rubbery... I'm like, so you put it in water, and
if you put it in water, it firms up.
Really? It crisps up like that.
Oh, see, we all need water.
Well, yeah,
not the cricket dust. I'm bringing us back down,
back to the cricket dust.
Back to the cricket
dust. Dude, we could all live on cricket dust in the future.
Lovely.
All right, now. Here's where we're going to go back to your hilarious bit. The point is, you kept it light, but you expressed trauma with the misogynist who dies on Women's Day.
Women's Day. It's a true story.
Wait a minute.
So let's take it way back, Nance.
You want to go back? Okay, so somebody we're going to... This will be revealed, but the backstory.
Yeah, backstory is, and this is really kind of helpful to, paint the picture of kind of what crescendoed into that being my closer and when I started and how I started comedy.
And it makes sense that this is one of your first bits because I think just like when a playwright writes their first play, it's usually a memoir. It's usually more, and your upbringing, and I already know, you've had some intense upbringing.
Yeah.
So are we going to go to some childhood?
Let's go there.
All right.
I have my tea that you so kindly made me. It's calming me. Cheers.
Cheers to peppermint.
Let's dive in.
Anybody who wants some?
Yeah, it's nice and calm.
Yeah. And I think it's a good idea to sip peppermint tea or any kind of
It's so good.
lovely beverage that you like to, to reset your parasympathetic nervous system.
Are you ready to consume this trauma? Grab a cup of tea. We're getting back to the
Grab a spot.
grab a spot.
A spot of tea.
But it's that origin of that joke is very layered to me personally, and I like doing bits like that where this is so built in and it's like silly and stupid and nobody kind of knows what's behind it. But so I was born at home in a trailer in a campground where my dad was the security guard, and I have 4 siblings. We're all named J's for Jesus, legitimately.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So
let's slow down just a minute there, because that was a lot in a sentence.
Yeah.
Because I almost was hearing like, in a cabin, in a canyon, excavating for a mine. It's like, okay, wait, in a trailer.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. In a campground.
In a campground.
I was born.
My dad was a failed religious leader. Sorry to put the adjective of failed on you, Pops, but and I was homeschooled until I was.
You were born
10.
in a trailer, in a campground.
In a campground.
And your father was the security guard of that campground.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Just want to take it in. I think I want to give me and other folks like, hey, that was a lot right there. You were born in there, home born and homeschooled.
Homeborn, homeschooled, farm raised.
Was there a farm?
So we lived in that trailer until I was about 4, and then we moved to, shout out to my hometown, Lamoille, Illinois. And we lived kind of amongst a farm. So we owned a house that was on farmland, and I lived there until I left.
Wow.
Yeah.
Until you were an adult?
Till I was an adult, yeah.
You lived on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, and it was interesting, it's like I say, like, I tell this joke a bit on stage, and, which is why I always love working with you and doing tours with you and, just going on road trips with you, because you have such great ideas. But yeah, I mean, it is, it kind of, I don't know if it segments people or ostracizes people, but, my dad, I always say, I'm like, oh, he was a failed cult leader. He's like, he's a diet cult leader, a cult leader light,
it was a very tiny cult, just the family.
Yeah. I think he started with the family since I have 4 siblings. But it was always like a very small following.
So he did try to get a bigger...
He did try to grow, and kind of use our home as a compound-esque, if you will. But again, we were on a farm and, low income. And so he would, he did a lot of like pig trough baptisms, true story.
And they were advertised that way.
Yeah,
in the
they
paper.
were.
Come by. But
then he got a stainless steel pig trough. So then you upgraded, and that was very special.
Ooh, that's nice. Stainless steel.
My siblings and I, we've talked about it. We're pretty sure he followed the IBLP, which is the Institute of Basic Life Principles.
Ooh, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I was thinking of...
Check it out. It's scary.
I was thinking International Baccalaureate School, but no.
Definitely.
What is it? IB what?
IBLP, the Institute of Basic Life Principles. He had like all the cassettes and would listen to this. It's just a very like kind of Little House on the Prairie if Charles Ingalls was like wildly misogynistic. Like it's so it's kind of bringing it back to the farm and the land and working as soon as you're 5 and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, rooted in
just the...
Is there some principle about, is that in the Bible somewhere?
No, I don't think so. So the principle, it is in the Bible. It follows basically a lot of the biblical teachings, but there's a hierarchy. So it's kind of like a religious caste system. So it would be... So this is the caste system, right? Okay. So it's like, listen up, you're learning a lot. Yeah. It's Jesus, then the dad, head of the household, and then the oldest son, and then the youngest son, and then however many youngest sons, and then the mother, and then the oldest daughter, and then the youngest daughter. And guess who is the youngest daughter.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was the lowest on the totem pole, essentially.
You were.
I was.
Just.
I was.
And there's just some part of them that like, well, that just needs to be accepted.
Yeah.
Like there's no arguing with it.
There was no arguing with
You need
that.
to know your place.
Yes, very much like speak until you're spoken to, and yeah, all of that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And
so like I would do, all of the household chores. Like I did, from the time I was 6, I did everyone's laundry. I did everyone, like all of the
entire
all the
family?
dishes, and there was 7 of us, so it was.
Wow, I grew up in a family of 7. Also,
Yeah.
that's a huge
It's
amount
a
of laundry.
huge amount. So
You were 6 years old.
yeah.
No wonder you're so capable. I mean, it must feel like you're retired now.
It's so interesting because I have had to go through that linear work structure with my therapist to be like, girl, you're ready to retire. Like you've been doing this too long.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm so glad that I left, corporate America, because I was doing comedy on the side for so long. And, I've left corporate America only, I'm like, climbing IBLP ladders, climbing corporate ladders. I'm like, it's just, I think, conditioned behavior.
Well, you have a very can-do attitude. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, all of a sudden I'm thinking these gifts. Like, I was thinking how lazy I am about... You know what I mean? No, I am. No, I am. It takes so much. Like I have to put on certain music to clean house. My son, I just had one child, and on Saturdays from 9 to noon, we'd put on Honky Tonk Heroes on KGNU here in Boulder, and we would clean to Honky Tonk. Okay, people are going to call me out. That's not when Honky Tonk Heroes was on. Shit, it was on earlier. We got up earlier back then. Okay. Whatever. We put on certain like bluegrass music and we clean the house. And I'm telling you, it is so hard for me to do my chores.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, are you a person like after doing chores from the age of 6? So I interrupted you, by the way, because I want to hear more about what you had to do.
Yeah.
And now is it like you are a mom. Is it easy for you to do laundry? Is it easy for you to multitask and do like clean the dishes,
It's so interesting now. I mean, I don't want to use like reductive words or like safe words, but I have to be not careful, but aware. I have to be aware of how much I go into like cleaning mode and how much, how much time I spend on that. Because again, I have an award-winning therapist. She seriously is like my life coach. It's everything. I've probably been seeing her, I think 8 years now. It has really helped me through a lot of this. And to your point, not calling yourself lazy, and it's okay to be restful. And because when you're resting, you're doing something. You're doing something for your body. You're resting.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I almost have to meditate in order to sit down and not.
Hard for you not to do?
It's hard for me not to do things constantly. Yeah.
Tell me your other chores. I interrupted you. So you had to do the laundry for the entire house at age 6.
Yeah. So like women, quote unquote, my sister, my mother and I would do all the indoor stuff. My brothers would do the outdoor stuff. I wasn't allowed to play sports.
And here you are, an athlete.
I ended up being a college athlete.
Yeah, you got a scholarship, and you were a better athlete than your brothers.
Than my brothers, who got like a 5-year head start. Take that, brothers. Just kidding. I have a great relationship with my brothers, yeah.
But it is very wounding, the patriarchy on a personal level when you cannot let your light shine, when you cannot use your gifts.
Yeah.
And you can imagine in certain countries where it's still not allowed. And even in our country, it is a patriarchy. Yeah. I mean, we are still, even as comedians, as female comedians, we can feel the difference when we perform in front of a Moms Unhinged audience, which is predominantly women.
Yes.
I've never had shows that felt so easy in all my life, where I'm like, oh, they know where I'm coming from out of the gate. And it's because we get each other, whereas when I'm on a show at a generic mixed audience, it still feels like I have to get everybody on a page that, like, first of all, you have to know that women are smart and funny.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I wonder if I was telling jokes to my brothers, because they're, I do have, a great relationship with two of them, and because I have 3 brothers, 1 sister, but I do have a great relationship with 2 of them. And it's so interesting because they've had to work on their conditioning with towards me, because I am the younger sister.
Bet.
So it's been, we've had very turbulent and kind of tumultuous parts of our relationship where I'm like, hey, you can't talk to me that way. You can't do those things. And they would, and the shame that they feel because it was instilled in them. It was my father's beliefs. And, like the saying, shit rolls downhill. It definitely does with children.
Yeah. And that whole psychological kick the dog syndrome.
Yes.
And even when there's not a religious cult behind it.
Yeah.
I'm guarantee you, I'm the, my joke is 4th of 3 children.
Yeah.
But I am the 4th of 5, and my youngest sister is really struggling to overcome those role sets. I think I learned that term in sociology in college, where it's like you have a different role set. You and I have a role together, and it is weird, that we are all equals in that, and yet there's parts of us that wait a minute, I'm the headliner,
but
and you know what I mean, or I've got more experience, or I'm older, I'm an old. Whatever. Sometimes I have to admit when I have felt that energy of well, how do we get back to knowing we are really all equals?
One thing that I have to compliment you on, Nancy, is you intentionally reframe. And I've seen you do it on stage. I've seen you do it in the moment. I've seen you do it with other comics. I've seen you do it, with, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna not say that, and I'm gonna go sit over here, but it's true. You have to intentionally reframe, because we are all built into these roles, and usually they stem from childhood. And I know you've said this before. It's you have, you want to be heard.
Oh gosh, and I get so triggered.
But that's something too, and it's hard within these, especially a religious structure where, I'm the one that's changing my role, and I've been changing my role for about 18 years. Since I first went into therapy and started to understand what my upbringing was. Yeah. But I know that I'm the one changing. So I do have a lot of compassion for people in my family where I'm like, hey, I know that I'm the one ostracizing myself, but I kind of can't care, because that's what's part of my healing.
Right. That is the biggest part, especially with families and in my recovery work. So many of my friends, it's if you have to choose between you and your family,
you got to choose. You got to choose yourself. Yep.
You got to choose yourself. So I wanted to say it must be, I don't know, I want to put a number on it. I don't need it. It's 10 times worse when it's so written down, this is the role. In certain, in certain countries where the caste system is more spelled out, these people do these kinds of jobs, and these people, my son's from Nepal, and there is a definite, they kept wanting to know his last name. Everybody that met him, what's his last name? And I'm I don't know. He only had one name, Biswas.
Because they wanted to put him in
They wanted to know what his caste was, because it's by the last name.
Sure.
And they would look at they just study him, with squinted eyes going, oh, I think he is, whatever. And
they're Norton, American.
Norton, which, my name means from north of town, and I guess that depends on where the tracks are. I don't know, but yeah. So okay, but but it's really rigid like that.
Very
it's
rigid.
Absolutely your role. It's not just this kind of, ethereal sense. Oh, I sense that people are looking down on me, or thinking, I'm the youngest, so they're in the position of authority. It's no, your absolute role is that you have to do all this work and not complain and not put upon.
Which is why I think I was so athletic and such a good student, because it kept me out of the house. Even when I was younger so that was, again, there's these little survival pieces that I'm, hugging and giving little Jene a high five, because that was so the right thing to do. And then, getting into, college and, which I never thought I would do. And I started in junior college and I played basketball and softball there, but it was on a scholarship. So I worked really, really hard and kind of just jumped on these vehicles to get me out of
the system,
the family and the poverty. And all of it.
And all of it. When you were doing that, was that where you met with resistance? from your
Oh
parent
my gosh.
when you decided like how did you assert yourself? How did you break out? How did you say I am doing this? Like
it's interesting. They always say like there's the one teacher, I had a teacher in 8th grade and he was just like, oh, you had a great basketball game last night. And I mean, again, it took coercing on my, so for example, I didn't go into public school until I was 10 because my mom had to start working. She had taught us all up until that time. And I convinced my dad, I'm like, hey, I'm going to get bullied if I don't meet kids. And the only way to meet kids is to play sports. And my dad had this thing where he was like very fast and wanted to run track. And I think they like kept him, my grandfather, my paternal grandfather kept him from, he had to work. So he never got to play sports. So, he was just kind of really resistant. But I was like, if I'm going to make friends, I have to play sports. I have to play sports.
You knew how to appeal to his.
Oh, for sure.
His sense of like, he at least would want you to have friends.
Yeah.
You knew that you knew that he wanted good things for
I also
you.
was like, if I get bullied, you're going to have to deal with the school. If I get bullied, you're going to have to, it's going to make more work for you. So just like, let me do this.
Oh, I see. So you actually had to make it about him.
Wildly manipulative.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I think that's the gift that comes with the
persuasion.
If we have, and I don't want to label anybody, but if we have a somewhat, I don't know if he's narcissistic or somewhat self-involved, but then you learn like this is how this is gonna affect him.
Therapists have said in the past they would presume because he never went to for anything for his mental illness, but it's presumed that he was an overt narcissist, borderline schizophrenia possibly, just because he had a lot of like safety issues, like after he passed, he had my siblings and I were cleaning out the old farmhouse that we grew up in, which, you have to like throw it back to our upbringing. So my brother's like, my old Camaro's out here and he's like doing donuts in the cornfield. I'm like, you can take the kids out of the trailer. But, but he had all like, he had a hollow core door into his main bedroom and there was like 12 locks on it, probably for like the 12 apostles. And then next to his bed, if you shut the door and there's a bathroom door there and it's like flush next to the bed, he had a machete in a sheath. So like he thought people were coming for him and like coming for us like all the time.
He was ready to protect and defend. So although it sounds like he was definitely protecting himself.
Yeah.
He was going to lock himself in that room with the 12 locks. What did you have any locks on your room?
No.
I was like, dude, I'm a little like, and I think you were going to get left high and dry, man.
Well, and it's
if
so
the
funny.
Shit went down. I think he was going to be in that room. Can I just do a little traumedy around the locks for a second?
Yes.
Because I
never even thought about that.
I also know what I'm also picturing. But he might have invited y'all in. He's like, get in the master bedroom. And then, but how long it would take you to lock all those locks? Like,
and the best part, my brother's like, I can kick through this door. Like it was a hollow core door. So we're like, what is this? So again, the comedy around it, like my brother's like, yeah, you're really saving yourself when I can put my foot through into you.
That flimsy veneer door.
Yes, it was one of those. And
it's
we're
almost
like
a prop door.
It was a prop door just so he could test his locks. Like that's just
it was just to hold up the locks.
He had a lock fetish. No,
but I don't know why I'm picturing a small sketch of like shutting the door and like just a second, ding, ding, ding.
Don't break in yet.
And like different kinds, like the chain, and then the one at the hotel that flips over that kind of that has the little prongy thing. That doesn't feel like it would really.
And then he's got a keypad one. He's like, oh, what's the code? Oh my gosh. So yes,
does that feel okay to laugh with you? Because I always hesitate to like. Because I don't want to.
It does. It does feel good.
Okay, that's what I needed to check.
It does feel good. It feels great because I think, and especially I think it's why I can do like bits on stage about being homeschooled and my dad being like a diet cult leader, and is like I have healed from it. And especially after his passing. Yeah.
Yeah, that does make a difference. I know that does make a difference.
Yeah.
And you did. Is this okay? This is where I have to worry about taking you off on tangents, and I don't know if you want to talk about. But do you need to do more background before we talk about his passing?
I think now that we've got that we've got the base.
But we need to know, like you had, like literally
it was
had
a
to
lot.
fight for your life.
Yes,
and to get out, like you matter.
Yeah.
You were like a slave. Basically, you were a slave to that family. Is slave too strong of a word?
No, I mean,
it
is a strong word. At the same time, he did used to call me slave girl, and that was that's true.
He called
true
you
story.
that,
like
with a sense of irony.
It was a sense of irony, but it was always to put me in my place. Yeah,
truth said in jest.
Yes, truth said in jest. That's a great way to put it.
Wow, dude, that is like. I mean, I need to just take that in for a second.
It's a lot. And it's okay. I feel like I talk about it really quickly. I'm like, da-da-da-da.
He just called me slave girl. Yeah, it's just a little thing he did.
Yeah.
But man, that affirms, like, to put you in your place. Like, if you were like, hey, slave girl. Like, wow.
Take off my boots after work. That was exclusively my job.
You had to take his boots
off after work. Yeah.
I can't believe you got free.
I did get free. And that's really where
I can't believe it.
Gratitude is huge. Gonna plug gratitude on the podcast.
But amazing. Like, when you are under that much of I would say, I want to say a spell, but when you have been put in that kind of like, all I am is here to take his boots off, to do his laundry.
Yeah.
What other jobs did you have that were like that? That's kind of intense.
So
he would come home and what would he call your name? He would come in the door and or you had to anticipate him coming in.
Yeah,
the house.
I had to anticipate it, but then if I was late, and it's whatever, he would just shout nay at the as loud as he could, and I would.
So your name's Jene, but he called you Nay?
Yeah, all my family calls me Nay or Nay Nay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he was like, Nay, and then you would have to, you knew.
Nay, where are you? And I'm like, oh, God. Yeah, but
I'm standing here with my boots on.
How dare I still have boots on?
I can't even get to my food.
I can't even get to my Chef Boyardee, which better be warm. Whoop, I just dropped my mom's name.
We can bleep it. I can bleep it.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so I would, the one outside chore I did have is I would collect eggs. So, which is awesome because I got to like connect with the chickens and it was like a break to be out of the house.
They were like your friends?
They were my friends,
They are so.
Yeah, I love chickens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got to collect all the eggs. And then when my little brother was born, and I'm like 4.5 years older than him, as soon as he was born, it was kind of my job to look after him if he was outside. And
you had to parent your brother.
Yeah, parent my brother. And then really led into a lot of different parenting roles that I had to break from because I would like even parent my older siblings who, at the time were having, a hard time processing their trauma and, and stuff like that. But probably from the time I was 6, which really I've been working a long time on reframing my relationship just to work in general and occupation. And he used to be like, oh, if I were your boss, I'd fire you. Like as soon, like as
your dad would say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from the time I was like
based
6.
on like you didn't fold the underwear correctly or something?
Didn't fold correctly, didn't, collect all the eggs.
Wow.
And I mean,
so he would threaten your security.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't even have a job, you wouldn't have food, you wouldn't have.
No, and that's
you're just lucky.
And we were talking about
exactly
that scarcity mindset is really a tricky one because it truly is brainwashing, right? It's brainwashing someone to think that they should constantly be in fear and constantly be of service to whomever's around because they themselves are not worthy enough. And that is something that I've really had to heal from and process and grieve, that relationship.
My mind went to, we were talking about scarcity before we were recording. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
When we were talking about like you had this amazing magical set where, and not every comedian, but there's just like, you have this, sometimes these like magical nights where all the stars line up and you're in the zone and you're feeling this like connection with the audience that is just flowing and it's almost like
it's magic.
It's like a parallel universe.
You have a connection to source
connection,
source
and
connection
within yourself, within them, with a collective consciousness or something. And then the video didn't work, and that's where we're like, okay, we have to believe there's going to be more and more of those nights. And we know there will be.
Yeah.
But at the time it was like, but that would have, to have that magical set, to witness that, because the learning process is so painful. And then, when we start off, there's this, it's like the batting averages are pretty, low. If you're really being authentic, they're low because you're trying to figure out this crazy algorithm and the patterns. But anyway, so the scarcity where we believe, like, so that is a brainwashed thing. You're saying that you learn like that, that fear-based mentality that there's not enough, that I'm not good enough, and I can't, do enough to be okay. Like, I'm not going to be secure in my life.
Which also led to like the perfectionism. And I always say I'm a recovering perfectionist, because it's like, if I can make it perfect, like I can control his reaction towards me. Yeah.
Of course. And I so relate to that, like trying to avoid any criticism. Like, or if you did something wrong, I try to point it out first. Like, let me show you,
that too.
Just so it takes the heat off a little.
Takes the heat off, and so it's
prepare yourself, brace yourself.
Yeah. So I'm like, getting back to the joke. I'm like, I love tangents about about this, but no, because it is, it's a rough picture, but. The healing part is really where. So fast forward, I'm graduated from college. I start and my relationship with my dad is even more kind of tumultuous. It's kind of hit or miss, and I ended up working at a job that had full tuition reimbursement. So I ended up getting my MBA for free, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And and it was one of those things. It's like, I just recently learned, like, pay attention to the people that you tell good news to, because if there's people that that will somehow get jealous, or you're putting them out by having something good happen in your life. And he was always one of those people. I'm like, I'm going to be in trouble for getting more education, and he was very much like, no man's ever going to love you. You can't be smarter and funnier than they are. Stay in your place. So even as an adult, he was reinforcing that. So it eventually got to the point that I had to just really sever. So, and then he started to get sick.
Oh, yeah. From the Chef Boyardee.
From the Chef Boyardee.
No. And I love Chef Boyardee. I don't need
Chef Boyardee.
But in balance.
You make good stuff. Yes. Yeah. In moderation.
Yeah. Or have some vegetables in between a can.
It really, like, he ate a lot of Chef Boyardee, a lot of corned beef hash, a lot of processed meat. And coronary artery disease, diabetes, obesity all runs in my family. But he ended up having an 8-way bypass.
8-way bypass. That's not bypass. You've heard of quadruple.
This is double, quadruple. He literally set the record in Illinois for the most bypasses.
It was a medical record. Yes. No one had ever had 8 coronary artery bypasses.
Correct.
And when you shared that with me, I remember where we were. It's interesting because we were driving, I believe it was north, from Wichita Falls to Oklahoma. I can see the landscape.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that, and I felt my heart, and I just felt like, oh my God, he had such a broken heart. Like that he had broke a record.
Truly.
He had and I just got goosebumps again.
So did I.
I feel him here, like nobody. I just feel like I want to cry because I feel a sadness because, you're part of your heart. I'm projecting, but I wanted to know my mother's heart.
Yeah.
And I never did because she couldn't know it. He could not know his own heart.
Yeah.
Because he had to wall it off at such a young age from whatever happened to him.
From whatever happened to him. Yeah.
And everything he did was out of a survival mechanism that he thought was for the highest good. Like he thought his way out of his problem, and maybe with, like you said, it could have been some mental illness that grew out of that. Yeah. You can imagine, like, I don't know. I just don't think, I think when I look at life nowadays, I'm like, everything happens for a reason. Like, I mean, nobody becomes a certain way out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like nobody becomes a super asshole or a super oppressive person or all this, a narcissist. Like they're made. Yeah. And anyway, it doesn't.
You're gonna make me cry.
I'm not reducing your
I appreciate you.
what he put you through, It doesn't justify it.
No.
But it also like.
But it's important to have compassion. It's important to have compassion too.
I feel like there's a healing in that.
Yeah.
Like knowing like the thing that keeps coming. My mother, when I helped her transition, and it wasn't great. I'm not a great nurse. I joke about that, but I'm telling you, man, I was doing my best, but I hated that she was choking, and she was also extremely thirsty. Like I wish I could have helped her. And I hear this voice say, "You did your best, forget the rest." And then I'm like, I am working on trying to say that back to her.
Yeah.
Now it's easier when they have passed, when they're no longer a threat.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to be with that your dad.
Thank you. No,
Oh
and
my
Nancy,
God, he broke a record.
And talk about, I mean, I think you I think you have a gift when it comes to like framing things. And I mean, I think we both got emotional that day, but I've never heard someone say it that way. Because he did have a broken heart.
Yeah.
He really, and there is something,
broken.
There's something that.
Here I am without tissues. I have this. I haven't used
Please
it.
wipe your face on said shop rag. No, I appreciate it. No, I mean, and he did have a broken heart, and there were things that happened, but it is that balance of holding him accountable enough so I can heal, but also be compassionate. And I have to say, like, on his deathbed, so after the double quadruple bypass, and mind you, my siblings were sometimes so mad at him. I'd be the only one to show up to a surgery that was 4 hours long. I'd be the only one there. And that was, sometimes really difficult. And then, and my siblings, not to reduce them down in any way. I mean, we all kind of chipped in and jumped in wherever we could because the relationship was so complicated and so damaged between all of us. But on his deathbed, I'm really glad that I was there. I was in a work training and, took a red eye home.
You were there. And
I was
such
there.
a sacred time, isn't it? It's transcendent.
It really is. And, I did say to him, I held his hand and I said, neither one of us are taking any of this with us. Like,
wow.
Yeah. So those were kind of the last words. Where
you rose above it.
Yeah. And I mean, because I felt called to. I was like, this pain isn't even mine. It's his. Like, It's his that was kind of bestowed upon me.
The generational
trauma.
Came down. I see it. And then it's like, and then it's like, you have a child and you are not.
No.
You are not passing that down.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
It stops
Where
here.
I hope everybody listening, like, you truly can step into your own power in that. You can break cycles. It's a lot of work, but it's really been healing. And I mean, 6 months after he died was when I did my first stand-up set.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were liberated.
I was liberated in a lot of ways.
Because you spoke and you said this joke, a misogynist dying on Women's Day.
So, yeah. So
that's the day. When is Women's Day?
March 10th, March 12th. I should probably no.
Well,
but
whatever
what
it is,
was I flew in, and this is the origin of the joke part, which I mean truly was healing for my sister and I. So I fly in, and my sister picks me up from the airport, and we have a 2-hour drive to the hospital, and the whole way there we're like, how are you doing? How are you doing? She also has a very difficult relationship with him, probably even more so than I. But she goes, do you realize that, she goes, if he dies tomorrow's Women's Day?
Oh, wow.
And I go, isn't it ironic?
Oh.
And then we look at each other and we started laughing, like cry laughing that you do, like around death and tragedy. And I was like, a misogynist dies on Women's Day. And
that's the birth.
That was the birth of that joke.
Spontaneous birth of that joke.
Spontaneous birth of that joke.
And then you've built it out from there. And
to make it funnier and make it. But that first part is for me because it's not even, I think, reducing him in any way because he was a self-identified misogynist. It's how he identified.
And proud of it.
Proud of it.
Yeah,
So,
not like, oh, I'm, I can't help. Like some people might say, I was born into this role and this patriarchal system. Yeah. But he's like, he amped it up. He took it on and shined it bright.
Yeah, he's proud to be an American man. Yeah, like he really amped it up. And, again, I identified as a misogynist, knowing and thinking that, women were made from Adam and women are, by definition, lesser beings than men. Yeah, like truly.
I remember you saying in the car that day, you asked him,
point blank. I was like, do you really think that I'm a lesser person than any other man that exists? Like, like anyone, your enemies, your murderers, yourself. Like, I mean that you really think that I'm, and he's like, man, I just, he's like, you've always had a Jezebel spirit, which is basically a biblical way of calling me a disrespectful slut. But he's like, you've always had a Jezebel spirit. One thing I wish for you is you could have known your place. And I was like, I will never know my place in your world, and I won't speak to you again. And that was like the last time we talked before he died. Before I went back and had that moment with him.
How much time was in between there?
5 years.
5 years that you let him be with that. Like he's dug in. He's absolutely 100% sure that everybody needs to know their place, and they'll have peace if they know it, and they don't try to fight it.
Well, and I think he also did that narcissist thing where, leads me to believe that there were, characteristics of that. There was, he would go to my brothers and be like, I lost my baby. I lost my youngest daughter. Jene won't talk to me. So then my siblings would kind of call me and be like, maybe if you could just pick up the phone and how about that, and I was like, but it really, and it was never anything that anyone does out of healing, like truly isn't out of spite. It's out of healing. And he, his absence was less traumatic and less hurtful than his presence. So
that's it.
If that's the designation, then you gotta go.
I know, that's a good call. So yeah, if people, I know there's been a lot of times in my family of origin, because I'm the scapegoat, and it's like, it's so hard to do that equation or to accept, like the sense I get, and I live far away, which is helpful, so I only see them intermittently, but I was so your toggle is, okay, if it's more painful to have them in your life than not, that's a pretty cut and dry thing, and it's sometimes the nuance in there gets a little fuzzy. Like what my sister and I say, my younger sister and I don't know, we say, like, we do know, like I will say, my family has helped me in times of crisis. There's a sense of knowing they are there in an emergency, just like you showed up with your dad when he passed. There's that level of family that is so deep that I don't want to lose. Yeah. And that's really tricky, I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that sense of knowing, like, I will say, like, I do have that, but then that's back to that scarcity survival level. Right? Sure. That's down to that, because that came to me in a meditation, and I know you meditate.
I do.
But was that today or yesterday? I was like, oh, well, my parents were just operating, in nursing school, we had the old Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And probably a lot of people learn that. Yeah. And there's what's the core one? The bottom line is food, like biological.
And then it's like community is like right up there.
There's safety and security.
And then,
I think it's, as I recall, there's and then there's sense of belonging. Self-esteem, self-actualization is at the tippy top.
I think that's right.
At the very bottom is just like shelter, food, water, Yes. Then there's that kind of family, safety and security, then sense of belonging. Yeah. Well, so I know my parents were operating almost at the bottom there, that survival level.
Right. And that's really what's helped me reframe a lot of, almost like anger that I'd have, or because I do believe that at some point, like, it is my responsibility. I'm kind of, I'm not breaking the cycle if I'm saying this happened to me and I'm going to make the world pay for it. That's exactly what my dad did. But I reframe it as, it's also okay to be a little uncomfortable. That's one thing I'm learning with, with a therapist with my therapist is, I don't need to cut out people. I'm really good at it. My block list on my cell phone is quite long. Block list on Facebook, even longer. I love blocking. If you need blocking tips, I got you.
I probably could use some blocking tips.
But it's also, because I think what I did was like, ooh, boundary. I can remove myself from this pain. And then it was the pendulum swing to the other side. Like, I will suffer no pain. And that is also not
okay.
That's a very lonely place to be.
Right.
So,
and I feel like sometimes I'm getting into that, like at this point, like, ooh, I don't want to risk too much closeness. My pendulum, I am getting a little rigid about like autonomy, like versus connection. But so you're saying you are like, one of the recovery things in my program says something like we will become more attracted by strengths and more tolerant of weaknesses, which, it sort of plays into that a little bit where it's like, okay, it may not be my chosen family, but it is my original family.
Yes, original family.
And I have more tolerant. You've built up some where you recognize it's really not about you, it's about them or something like that.
Truly, and it's also tactics that I internalize, right? Because like I'm responsible for my triggers, truly, like we all are, and it's. I'm kind of well equipped with this saying of, because I think you're a super hypersensitive person as well, which abuse and everything affects like
HSP.
Oh my goodness, we're
highly sensitive people.
So many HSPs. But I will do this thing. Well, I will say observe, not absorb.
That's so good. Thank you. I want to be with that.
And
write that down. Well, because we were
not absorb, and if you're not absorbing any negativity, hatred, I mean, you can let people be and do what they're doing. Yeah. Kudos.
Tell me
to my
how
therapist.
that feels in your body when you say like so. Because like I have to embody stuff.
Yes.
To
and
do
it is
like,
important to embody it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I want to like. Is there a vision that comes with it? Because sometimes I picture like a golden light around me.
Yeah. I picture like a bubble. I watched that Bubble Boy movie when I was like. Is that like Jake Gyllenhaal as a tween, I think was. But I imagine a bubble and I just repeat, observe, not absorb, observe. And I can literally.
Wow, I need that mantra.
Yeah. Because it's a good one because it's quick. You have to repeat it a lot. It's not convoluted. Observe, not absorb. And you can actually, I visualize seeing, if it's my siblings' trauma, even like.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah. And it hits the bubble and I will watch it slide down outside of me.
That's a good visual too.
Yeah. And
and it's something they have projected out, but you are not taking it in as you're not the blank screen that's absorbing all that.
Exactly.
Oh my God, that's so good. Because earlier we were talking, I said, I want to ask you about that because you were saying how you've learned not to be so reactive.
Yeah.
And I am a reactor. I have been. I need to try and speak in past tense, but I can still, as you know, I share in my comedy about like, there's just times the variables stack up and I totally like get into fight, flight, freeze, fight. And I've been going more into fight, Yeah. I still can go into freeze. But anyway, point is, so to not be a reactor, you are an observer. And you are in a protective bubble and you're just like if someone's coming at you, like, hey, you need to know your like a family member who's trying to get you to re-up that old role set. Like you should be knowing your place. I'm trying to imitate them. Like I'm like,
well,
dude,
now
trying to look down at you.
My dad was the overt narcissist. My mom is a little bit more covert. I really don't have a relationship with her. But I do like to go back and see my family and, my family, still has a relationship with her. So that's one thing I've done too when I've gone back home is I'm like, I will just have to observe the behavior because it's the guilt tripping. But she also claimed that no abuse ever existed and your dad was hard on you and it made you the charismatic person that you are. You should be grateful. So it's also it's verifying the abuse and approving the abuse.
This is a perfect way to go back to the beginning where we were talking about the post-traumatic ghosts, post-traumatic gifts,
PTSGs,
PTFGs, post-traumatic
stress ghosts.
The post-traumatic gifts, but like that's not for someone else to tell you. You should, you should be grateful. Like, hey, if I want to be grateful,
that's the difference.
If I find gratitude in it, that's one thing. But for your mom to say you should be grateful for that abuse that you suffered, that being called slave girl or whatever. Yeah. I mean, not just called it, but like,
and there was, always, physical abuse, like physical repercussions. Like he was not a kind, it came out in a lot of different ways. So it's one of those things where it's like, no, this is such an inherent part of my life that I literally spend most minutes, hours, and days processing and I don't even want to say overcoming, but healing from. It's like, bro, the first thing that you can do is say it happened.
Thank you. That's where I wanted
thing.
That's it. And so it's when people try to leapfrog over it and like, oh, let's just go to the gifts. No. First of all, you need to feel like, hey, how healing would that be for your mom or anybody even in your family, but especially I think our parents to say, hey, that happened and I'm sorry and you didn't deserve that. Right. Whatever it was, I saw it. Yeah. I saw what you went through.
And it would be a game changer. But also she's not capable.
She's not capable, and that's why we have a therapist.
Yes, because
to witness
because survival mechanisms are inherent. I mean, that's how she survived, is kind of that delusion of it didn't happen.
And that denial is so strong in our parents, like that generations couldn't afford for whatever reason. Right. And it might not be generational because it's happening now too, Sure. But for whatever reason, they cannot do it.
Yes.
And they cannot empathize because they cannot empathize with themselves. So how can they empathize with somebody else? Like they just don't have that capability. And I know it's like crazy making because it feels like you can't comprehend it. And it's crazy making. Like, can you just try to put yourself in my shoes?
I can't and the reason we can't comprehend it is I truly think it comes back to like they're unable. Like, and this is one thing my therapist does repeat is like they're not capable.
They are not.
They're not capable. And also like be grateful that you can comprehend it because that's someone who has a personality disorder. Like truly, who can't empathize in the minuscule way that you need to heal.
It's so hard to have that level of compassion sometimes. Like we did get there with your dad because we know like with him suffering and I do think, and when they are no longer a threat, it is easier.
It is easier
to find the compassion. But you're right. If it was treated like a mental illness, but it's so hard when it impacts you.
Yeah.
It's so hard when the mental illness is at your expense.
Yes,
too.
It is.
That's where it gets really complicated.
Well, and I am I am my father's daughter. There are things, we performed recently at the Hoyt Sherman Center in Des Moines, and that's the most people I performed in front of. It was almost 500 people. And right before I went on stage, I did a little like, sorry, couldn't get there, Pops, but I'm going to go ahead and command a room in front of 500 people. Like, so I am kind of like, my therapist actually says I should be more like I can be angry and not, she's like, you're straight to compassion. You got to be a little bit more angry. So I think where that comes out for me is like, I'll joke with them and be a little spiteful. And it's like super healing. I'm like, take that, Papa.
I gotcha.
I was like, I'm picking up all the chicken eggs now, aren't I? But
no one fired me either, by the way.
And literally, I have never been fired from a job. No, I lied. I did get fired from Fashion Bug. When I was in high school.
Fashion Bug. Okay.
Yep. That was my only firing. But it's.
And I don't know. I'm trying to go back to the whole eat the bugs thing. No, stop it. We don't need to tie everything in to something else.
Nancy loves a good callback.
Well, we're probably. I'm looking at our little clock here. Okay, we're going to pause right there because we have part 2 coming up. It's a great episode full of spiritual synchronicities, spirit signs. Let's raise the frequency. Tune in next week when we hear Jene Suplee say,
And my husband and I have actually had a couple of shared experiences.
those are the best. When you
was,
see something
and we both
together.
kind of look at each other and we're like, are you saying what I'm saying? Like,
And you're
this is
not on
crazy.
mushrooms.
No, and we're not on mushrooms. We're, completely sober. And
It's a great episode. I've already heard it, so I know. And it's not just about like spirit signs and synchronicity, but that is a part of it. And I am very excited about those things. But in general, just being resourced, healing, finding an expression that helps you heal. There's so many pathways to healing, and we talk about a little bit of all those on part 2 with Jene Suplee. I'd like to thank my guest, Jene Suplee. I love this episode. I love the motto, observe, don't absorb. I'd like to thank my son for doing the music for Traumedy. I'd like to thank Higher Power for giving me the strength and the time and the energy to do this. And I want to thank you, the listener, most importantly. Thank you. Just knowing you're out there, knowing that you're also going through stuff. We're not alone. So thank you for being a co-healer with me. Please let me know what topics you'd like to have covered, and if you'd like to be a guest, I'd love to have you on. Just, you'll know if you feel called to be on this program, please call me. And you can find all my contact information at my website, nancynorton.tv, like television. nancynorton.tv. And tune in next week for part 2. It's Traumedy Tuesdays. No matter what, keep laughing.